It took me some time in recording this introduction because I was left with many thoughts after having the conversation with my guest. The main one being that what exactly is mainstream and what has led to the current definition of mainstream as we see it. And in this particular mainstream, do we have space for people who perceive the world differently? In this episode, we are going to discuss about neurodivergence, its implications on mental health, and the support system created around it with Suverchala Kashyap ma'am. Suverchala ma'am is an award-winning educationist, author, and trainer with over 2 decades of experience in transforming educational ecosystems across India and abroad. She's the founder of Parivartan, which is a transformational hub, and she mentors students, teachers, and parents, integrating emotional intelligence and creative storytelling into learning. Um, I must confess that in this episode, we have only touched the tip of the iceberg, and this is a very deep and vast subject. But again, the intention here is at least to get the conversation started. So I hope you enjoy this episode and have some takeaways from this. And like I always say, please share it with those people who you think might benefit from this.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you for joining us in having this conversation. And it's really great to have you. And this has been a very unique topic and also something very close to my heart. I recorded this episode only related to the subject of autism, but it was you who actually expanded my understanding about neurodiversity, and that is what we are going to discuss today. So thank you, ma'am, for your time and making this happen.
Nazneen, I think the time is actually ripe for something like this to be discussed. As you mentioned, autism also has a slight, kind of priority as against other aspects, because in India, at least, and maybe not across the world, it's a little misunderstood, just like all other neurodivergent people are. So, I mean, it's really nice that we can talk about it and reach out, to people, and especially to young parents who are dealing with a whole lot of issues with the changing
Yeah,
scenario the world over.
yeah. Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, what drew you to working with the neurodivergent people in the first place?
So to be honest, Nazneen, like you mentioned that, say you were first focusing on autism, and then you kind of say thought of, okay, why not the whole spectrum in that sense, not the autism spectrum, but the entire neurodivergent scene. Now, for a very long time, I was in the field of communication, and whenever I would come across people, say adults primarily, what drew me to them was their uniqueness. Okay, now I'm using the word
Hmm.
unique over here for the simple reason that I don't want to say different right now, because back then,
Hmm.
I knew it theoretically, but I hadn't really experienced something at close quarters with something like neurodivergence in that sense. Okay, but then when I shifted to education, I realized that I was equally drawn to children who were, say, quote unquote, different. You know, like, say, a sixth grader looking out of the window would catch my attention more than someone who was paying rapt attention. And perhaps that took me
Hmm.
back to my own childhood, where I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't really the perfect student, so to speak. And I bet my teachers had a tough time, addressing me. And though I do not, as far as I know right now, I don't come under neurodivergent, but so I was very keen to know that how is it that this child who is still looking out of the window manages to answer all the questions that I put? Example. Okay. So the thing was that we
Hmm.
are attuned that somebody should look you in the eye while speaking, especially if it is a student, right? Now, all these myths broke when or they were kind of really shattered when on a day to day basis I was dealing with children of all age groups. And then slowly I got so attracted to this aspect because my main aim was to reach every child. Like you have that campaign of no child left behind. Now, how do you address that? Inclusivity in theory is one thing, but inclusivity on a daily basis is another thing, right? So I feel maybe some part of my own inner self drew me to this field.
Right. Yeah. So I think it would be great if you could explain to me what exactly is neurodivergence and what all or who all you would consider as a neurodivergent, just for the sake of clarity and better understanding for our audiences and for our learning.
Yes. So as the word Nazneen divergence says, so it's say a certain degree of normal to be say 90 degrees, just like you have in a right angle, then any level of say deviation from what we understand that as normal is called neurodivergence. Now, how and why is it
Okay.
different? So the way the mind or the brain processes, so cognition, as you know, is or as most people understand it as, especially the ones in the field of education, is cognition means to be able to absorb information that neurotypical people do it, let's say, for the sake of understanding in a X manner, then neurodivergent will do it in say y raised to the power n. A neurodivergent person, I won't just address child, person
Hmm.
processes or has a cognition of the world around him. Just to give you a very simple example, sometimes, I mean, I come from the dinosaur era, so to say. So we
Hmm.
were even say reprimanded for kind of moving our fingers, like tapping on the table, doing something in school. It
Hmm.
was just not allowed. Okay, so there was a lot of regime, but almost everybody just had to fit in one kind of a mold, right? Now I have
Yeah.
noticed that there are many children who sometimes may not even like, and if that pencil is kind of disturbing the touch, where the neurons on their fingers are very sensitive, and you force them to use that pencil. Now this is a very bizarre example I'm giving you, but they are ones that I have experienced closely with children. uh, you just can't get them to do what they should be doing or what they want to do, right? And the moment you change
Hmm.
something like that, something as simple as touch, either by hit and trial method or by experience, you realize that okay, fine. So this is how this child interprets the world or the
Hmm.
surroundings or something as small as touch. So right now I'm not even delving into
Hmm.
the deeper aspect of say making eye contact. Oh, I'm not going into all of that. Not the people who diagnose them, we are the ones who do the intervention.
Okay.
So but we have to be observant.
Hmm.
So there are children or the categories
Okay.
that primarily open up in this neurodivergence are autism spectrum disorder. Again, the word disorder is something scientific.
Yeah.
ASD, you have ADHD, you have Tourette's syndrome, and many more. All of these kind of neurodivergence primarily, but then there are many
Okay.
subsections also in it.
All right. Okay. Ma'am, as you were speaking, one thing occurred to my mind. You said that while you were studying, even tapping on the tables was forbidden. So, would you say that divergence, for someone who's falling into that spectrum, also has something to do with the social and cultural setup that we have built up, besides the cognitive interpretation part of it?
Absolutely, 100%, Nazneen, 100%. Because see, what happens is,
Okay.
um, like you may have heard that majority is not always right. Okay, so
Yeah.
just because does not mean that we have to abide by it, or that we have to follow it,
Hmm.
or whatever, right? Similar
Hmm.
is the case
Hmm.
over here, like I mentioned. Now, so this takes us a little further, I mean, in terms of how it can be dealt with. But the social setup, I'll give you an example of India
Hmm.
country. There are many things which are really very, I would say, like an obstacle too. Okay, and we tend to everything with the same brush. So I mean, for the want of another word, we often refer to such people or children as crazy. Okay, and unknowingly also we address the issue in that manner. For instance, if you're a teacher, your intention may not be to say it in that manner, but you end up saying, are you crazy, can't you sit in one place, right? And there you
Yeah.
have kind of taken the kid or the person uh, kilometers away from you and from change, because of our perception. So society kind of say, and we've all been to schools where we stand in line, we so we follow that one particular, not exactly army rule, but a
Yeah.
kind of discipline. Okay, so discipline is important.
Hmm.
But it's equally important to understand that these therefore, like I mentioned, that when you are uh, off the normal a little bit, there are ways to address it, and kind of mainstream. Very extreme cases also that need a different kind of handling, but the early intervention. Curiosity, see, is a very normal, natural human, kind of urge. So
Yeah.
when we kind of restrain curiosity, so a neurotypical child may take it, because their mind is processing it in a different way, that yes, I have to follow an instruction, and therefore I'll do it immediately. I mean, kind of
Hmm.
fall into place. But a neurodivergent child will not. You have to address it in their language, which varies.
Okay. And then what are the methods in which you would address, like how would you address this need, and how would you understand that, okay, a child is probably it falls in, he or she falls into that spectrum, and they need to be taken care of in a different way. So what are the methods that maybe a teacher or a parent or the support groups or the surroundings would help this child?
Fantastic. So the first level, Nazneen, I would say, is awareness. You know,
Hmm.
because as humans, again, we tend to believe what we want to believe. Okay, and the
Yeah.
experiences that we've had. So, irrespective of whether we are teachers or whether we are parents, the first obstacle in this whole process that I have seen in these so many years that I've been interacting with them is that they are not aware. So, the first level is
Hmm.
awareness, you know. Second is
Okay.
acceptance, that you need to first get aware, become aware as a parent and a teacher that there can be such kids in the class too, right?
Hmm.
Two is acceptance, like you accept it that okay, fine. And three is continuous professional development, self growth of the parents as well as the teachers, and not associating any of this with a stigma. You see,
Yeah.
I mean, uh, uh, under the purview, say that, of what we call, there are scenarios whereby we tend to postpone it, or we tend to ignore it, or we push it under the carpet. Oh, my kid can't be like this, you know. So the
Hmm.
first is acceptance, awareness, and then training for the concerned people, even the parents. And things are opening up now. I'm talking with the
Yeah.
context of India particularly. Of course, in many countries abroad, it is still better, I would say, in terms of at least awareness and acceptance. And then the last thing is you seek professional help, right? Now, again, that you have to
Hmm.
be very careful in the sense, uh, again, I'm saying this with a pinch of salt, nobody should misunderstand it. The thing is that sometimes uh, not landing up at the right place could push your own anxiety as an adult, and kind of put the child or push the child to the periphery more. So it may do them harm. So it's very necessary to go to a trained person, an experienced person who is empathetic, who's compassionate, you know. It's very easy to fall into that role, I feel, because I have seen this, and therefore I'm saying it from my personal experience, that we tend to say, okay, even a simple thing like, you can't do it, you're not capable enough,
Hmm. Yeah.
into the environment of a child or an adult who is trying to understand the world from a very different uh, zone or perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
these things I feel are very necessary. And of course, I can elaborate on the interventions also that are done by different people, and mainly what we do, I can later give you some.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay.
We can go ahead with that, ma'am.
So,
So you can just tell me
okay,
how is the intervention done? Yeah.
great. Scenario, you have something called the learning profile. Okay. Learning
Hmm.
profile is a kind of an outline, a kind of let's say a mind map, which allows you to understand a person or a child particularly from different perspectives. And this learning profile keeps changing over a period of time, but the basics remain the same. So, for
Yeah.
instance, I'll again give my example and then that of kids, that I first realized around middle school that I was both a visual learner as well as an oral learner. Okay. And
Hmm.
meaning, if I listened very carefully in class, and I was a brat, mind you, like I told you in the beginning, I was not one of those goody two shoes children. But if I listened carefully, I was able to just, it kind of created an image in my mind and I understood. But I only understood the subjects that interested me. And same goes for the children who are on any kind of spectrum. Okay, so that's one thing. So when so in case my teachers had made, say, a learning profile of me in my younger years, perhaps they would have understood that how they should present something to me in order that I am able to absorb it faster. You understand? So
Hmm.
what we do is we even present everything. I mean, the learning styles have to be synced with the learning profiles of children. No, that's not
Hmm.
easy. That's not easy, especially
Yeah.
given the number of children in one class in our country,
Yeah.
one would say that how can you have 30 different techniques? You don't have to have 30 different
Hmm.
techniques. Suppose the average class size is 30 to
Yeah.
40 children per class. No, you don't have to have those many techniques. You need to be say attuned, you need to be sensitive to the idea that if I present it in more than one way, am I getting different responses? So going back to the
Hmm.
drumming of the fingers on the table or elsewhere, if you are able, doesn't matter, because the drumming is only disturbing you, but it's not disturbing the child. In fact, it's helping the child to focus.
Hmm.
Need to be understood. So learning profile is one, you need to understand. Then second is, like I said, even that varies over a period of time, and there can be some extreme cases also, wherein a
Yeah.
child, I mean, you may get a
Hmm.
violent as in hitting without any purpose, any reason. So if you hit me, I
Yeah.
hit you back is still understandable. Not justified, but understandable, right? But with children, what happens is sometimes they just, it's a vent. They are not
Hmm.
understanding. And in neurodivergent possibility is higher. Okay. and
Okay.
and so I don't know if you've heard about it, but in the extreme cases, when the person is not able to understand them, there's a lot of head banging also. They even bite. Okay. So these are not all of them, it's nothing to be afraid of, but it's just, I mean, imagine that child wanting to express in your language, being unable to do it, and then this is the say
Yeah.
outcome or the consequence. Okay. so
Hmm.
so we say use most people use very simple techniques. One is like what we use is more to do with behavioral management, because this all comes under the
Hmm.
purview of eventually
Okay.
behavior. Okay. So it's a very simple thing that I will say introduce, like when I mentioned the pencil, I will not insist that the child uses that pencil every day, but I would keep it there. Suppose this is the pencil, I'll keep it within the sight of the child, so that even the child is observing, and I'm observing the child. If the child gets very bugged and kind of throws it away and says, I don't want it here, say, okay, fine, I'll put it away, darling. I'll not keep it here. I'm triggering. Is it the pencil per se? Is it a thought or an experience associated with the pencil? Is it the texture?
Hmm.
Because children are highly sensitive. Sensitive meaning they not sensitive as in emotionally sensitive all the time, but they pick up even something very nuanced, which a neurotypical child may not. So the child may not be able to explain why he or she doesn't like the pencil. So the first few days you keep it away. And then you ask, like example I'm giving you again, that hey, you remember that pencil? When you see that the other parameters are calming down, are coming to a normal, where the child is probably listening to you, sitting a little more still, could be more just 2 minutes or whatever. So there's a variety of interventions that come into play. And then you say,
Hmm.
hey, how about taking a look at this pencil? Look, ma'am got a new pencil today. And if the kid smiles, if the kid says, oh, come on, that's not new, that's the same pencil. So then you know that now the child is comfortable with it. I'm just using pencil over here as a metaphor.
Hmm.
It can be a place. So the first is you have to introduce something to them very slowly. There are criteria for doing that, but you can also have your own little hit and trial, like I said, because it's basically apart from the structured norms that are given, by the book, there's also something, like I said, which comes from the common denominator of empathy, right? So if you want long term change, you have to accept the person or the child as he or she is, which we don't. Okay, which we don't. So it's a very what do you call, interconnected.
Yeah, there are many layers to it. The way I'm comprehending this subject as we are talking, I think that there are many layers to it. If I may, there are biases of the teacher herself or himself. Then there are, as you said, the number of children who are there. Then we talk about identifying different techniques or just introducing one, two, three, five techniques, which is reaching out to as many children as possible. And then also we are talking about inclusivity or addressing, each child in his own way. So there are many multiple layers into this. Um, what I was thinking is that there are also separate schools for, as they call it, special children or, different children. I don't like the idea of this having, special, because every children is unique, and if it'll be a great thing to bring all of them together, and if all of them could sit in the same class, and if the teachers or if our education system could evolve in a way that everything could reach out to every child, but it is very challenging. I understand that as we are talking. So in this term, how, because every parent would want his or her child to fit into the mainstream, into a normal school, and would not want them to go into a special school. Um, but it's very difficult because not because people don't want to, but there are challenges, inherent challenges. What is your thought into this, and how all this can be addressed, and how we as a society can navigate into this?
Excellent, excellent questions. So, you know what? Um, I mean, if each of us thinks in a manner that what is close to our heart, it's almost like saying, that, oh, I'm blessed because this didn't happen to me, right?
Yeah,
Now, that's a very selfish way of looking at the world, right? Especially if you are in the capacity of a thinking adult, right? Now, like you
yes,
said, the challenges, particularly, I say, in our country, uh, things are changing. I'm not saying that they're not changing, but if the mindset doesn't change, nothing's going to change. You know,
hmm.
it's very necessary that the mindset changes. I mean, at the risk of being called names, I have even heard people at very senior positions say that, what inclusivity, you know and I mean, come on, like, when you're walking shoulder to shoulder with someone, uh, if you segregate, I'm not saying that segregation is not required. Sometimes it is. But if you segregate completely, how on earth are you going to develop empathy? Okay.
Yeah,
So I'll give you a very quick example, Nazneen, which was something that we'd experimented at a school where I was working. I was heading the school, and our chairperson, a very known educationist from Baroda, late Savita Amin, she's no more. She one day came up with this idea that we are going to employ uh, a teacher who cannot see, a blind teacher, a teacher by birth who was blind, right? And we were like, how is this going to be possible? Okay, I mean, isn't it going to be tough, this, that, and the other? She did not say anything to us. She just said that we are going to employ this teacher, period. And of course,
hmm.
we were put through the paces of handling that scenario, but all the same, it was very new to us. Now, you know what?
Hmm.
The they also
Yeah,
tried sir, I mean, sir, who was teaching them Hindi. They also tried his patience, like screaming from one corner, thinking that he can't see. That was the first or second week.
yeah.
The staff was also
I know.
grappling in their own way. But then, such a beautiful change occurred, I can't tell you. Grade 1 kids come running to me one day in my room. I was the head of the school.
Yeah.
And in Gujarati they tell me, because grade 1 is still learning to speak in English and all
Yes,
that.
yes.
And so they tell me, ma'am, how many steps from your room, steps like footsteps from your room to the staircase? And first I didn't understand the question. I was like, what, are you testing my math? And they said, no, we know how many steps Bharat Bhai takes. Bharat Bhai is the name of
Yeah.
sir. Okay, so with
The
his
teacher.
white
Yeah.
stick, he had he had paced that. We showed him the first time. After that, so he was not teaching grade 1. He was teaching only 7th and 8th. Okay, but the bond that developed, the empathy that came about in the children, and then the chairperson asked us, now, do you think that was a sensible decision or not? We said, yeah, very challenging, very difficult, all of that, but the end product is beautiful. Now, this is one
Hmm.
case in point, right?
Yeah.
So, special schools for the blind are understandable, but when will the mingling happen? When will sighted children understand what it is? So there are pockets, there are places here in Baroda too, where those exchanges are happening. But I would say it's very symbolic. It's very cosmetic. It's like
Hmm.
celebrating your birthday at an orphanage, which is very sad actually. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so things like that. According to me, if we don't start right, yeah, it is a challenge. I'm not saying it, especially in a country like ours, it's very tough because many things come into play. Many things come into play. Infrastructure, all of it, the teacher being trained, okay, and then there can be a possibility of shadow teachers being provided, but we go back to awareness and acceptance. When we are not ready to accept that they are as much a part of, you know and the kids only realized that sir could then identify names by the voice.
Yeah.
So he would point in a particular direction and say, okay, you stand up. And they were zapped because their other senses are heightened,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So according to me, separate schools is not the perfect idea, but so many taboos, stigma, everything is attached, so therefore it's
Hmm. In your opinion, since you've been an educator yourself and been in the field for such a long time, do you think that we as a society are ready for it, or are preparing ourselves to be ready for it? Are we in that direction, or we are far from it?
Um, well, I would say we are far from it. There's a long way to go
Okay.
as yet. Though people may profess, okay, I'm telling you, the ground reality is that until and unless we don't, take it on as a mission, as is, if we don't feel that it is as much the right of the next person as it is yours. Uh, so preparedness is also very, very vague right now. It's not, and I'm
Hmm.
not even talking about the extreme cases. I'm just talking about very, very um, things that can be handled. For instance, again,
Yeah.
I'll give you a very quick example in this particular thing. Today we make such a big thing of dyslexia. Okay, now way
Yeah.
back, almost 15 to 20 years back, when I would come across a child who had a difficulty in spelling, for me, that was not an issue. As a person, as a human being, it was not an issue. The issue was to figure out how can I get this kid with whatever limitation he or she has, whatever limitation I have, to be able to spell at least a few words correctly.
Hmm.
Now, see what happens is there's again a Japanese saying, if I'm not mistaken, that 99 times a lie becomes a truth. So, also
Yeah.
for a rumor, right? 99 times a lie becomes a truth. So, now if you keep telling the child you're dyslexic, you can't spell, you can't spell,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're taking the kid further away from even trying. That's my number one contention. Number two,
Yeah.
in a day and age for which we are not even aware what the future is going to be like, why are we so stuck on a spelling? You know, I know
mm,
teachers are not going to like this, people in education are not going to like this, but I have my little kids telling me, "Oh, come on, ma'am, just see, there's autocorrect on your phone." And I was like, yes, I know, but I was trying to
mm.
figure it out. Okay. So these,
Yeah, yeah.
so what I'm saying is, when we identify something as a sore thumb, it is going to stick out. It is going to have difficulties in, uh, conforming to the norm. And the question that comes to me is, why conform? Why should we all be
Mm,
photostats of each other? Why should we? We are all different, right? And yet the same.
mm.
So if we use this, uh, you know, say hypothesis, or we use this principle, the world will be a way better place where
Right.
education is concerned.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah. So, ma'am, I think we have discussed enough about the challenges that probably the neurodivergent children or people might face. And I think everyone somewhere is aware about the challenges. Let's talk about their strengths. What are the strengths that these people bring on the table?
fantastic. So uh, again, I'm going to say it with a little bit of a, slight difference in the sense. So the thing is that they have a whole lot of strengths, a whole lot of them. Okay. And one of them being that, like I said in the beginning, they are capable of focusing very acutely, very pointedly, um, on a task that interests them. Okay. And
Hmm.
the best example, so to speak, is of, I mean, in the world of cinema, is of Forrest Gump. Okay.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks has kind of acted in that movie, and he's shown to be somewhere on the spectrum. And way before that was Rain Man, another beautiful movie made
Yeah.
for these situations. Okay.
Hmm.
So one is that they, like I said, they are hyper focused. The word that is used
Hmm.
in this jargon is hyper focused. Now for us, hyper focus becomes an obstacle. Like I said, touching that pencil, hyper focus brings into play a certain thing. It can go in the
Hmm.
favor as well as in uh, so in today's day and age, so we have a very someone I know, his son has slightly on the autistic spectrum. But do you know where he's being um, employed? Cybersecurity. So the first
Okay.
thing is the first thing is about hyper focus. So they, if that is
Hmm.
something that interests him, he'll sit in front of the screen all day, trying to figure out whatever. Second thing is that they recognize patterns way better than we do. They
Hmm.
interpret color, sound, texture way better than we do. When I say we do, as a neurotypical, okay? For us, it's a very studied uh, example. Okay, like for instance, we'll have to really study very long to understand why is yellow looking so different. For them, it comes naturally. So that is hyper focus. Second is their higher sensitivity to a lot of things and recognizing patterns. Our brain also recognizes patterns, no doubt about it, but their brain is a kind of a notch higher in terms of
Yeah.
understanding the world around them. And the and where does this come into play is, like I said, if they get after something, they will achieve it. Okay. So for us, it could be stubbornness, it could be why you after one thing only, or whatever. And yeah, as I mentioned I forgot to mention in the beginning, OCD also, obsessive compulsive disorder, to some extent also comes into
Hmm.
neurodivergent. But today, again, without understanding, we call each other OCD. Like, you say, just because you like to keep your things properly doesn't mean you're OCD. Okay, so that is,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that is a repeated action. So repeated actions can sometimes lead to innovations. Okay, lead to a lot of lateral thinking. Lateral thinking is what we often don't do. We go from A to B and then to C. Most of that is called linear thinking. Lateral thinking is almost like, you throw someone in the deep end of the pool and they don't know how to swim, but they survive and they come out. I mean, don't we won't do that to anyone.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
is a metaphor. So, meaning that they figure out. They don't follow a script. Lateral thinking is where you can go from A to E, F, Z also, and then you come back and say, "Oh, I figured it." Something like what is called insightful thinking, which most creative people like, and also scientists have.
yeah,
Just like Archimedes, when he said "Eureka, Eureka," it was not that one day.
yeah,
It was several failed experiments. So perhaps we don't know about Archimedes, whether he was neurodivergent, but there are some on that have been proven, like Leonardo da Vinci, Einstein, based on the criteria that they were. So their strengths
yeah,
are many, and the last strength which they have, I feel, or it is also say researched, is that they are very empathetic, but they don't manifest their empathy in the way we understand. For
mm,
instance, a neurotypical child may run up to you and give you a hug every single day. Again, don't misunderstand, that hug may mean nothing. It may be very mechanical. Okay, I mean, it's just a routine that I'm hugging my mother or I'm hugging my teacher or whatever. And a neurodivergent child may not even allow you to touch him or her, or even say give a
mm,
pat, or caress, because they don't like that touch. But the day something falls into place with them in their jigsaw puzzle, not only would they come and perhaps give you a hug, or maybe they just come and keep their hand on your hand, or allow you to look into their eyes. It's for that brief moment. So their manifestations are also very different. It's just that we have to uh, have a radar for it. We have to have our antenna up, because we are it's almost like saying we are so attuned to having. That's how I perceive it, that a red light is for stopping, right? Obviously, otherwise if you go on the red light, which again, I don't want to say it here, but India is chaos for that, right?
yeah,
Everybody's shooting on the red light also. So it's like, if you're attuned to that, so for them the red light means something very different, and for us it
mm,
means something very different.
yeah,
So that's the comparison I could uh, draw from experience.
yeah. Um, okay, now we were discussing about inclusion and bringing all the people or all the children into the same class, into the same group, and integrating them together. Um, Now, what happens is because we are trying to mold them in a certain way, we say that mainstream. Sometimes I feel, what is mainstream?
True,
What is mainstream?
true.
But we have a certain definition of mainstream, and we would want to put every child or every human into that category. Uh, so what happens is sometimes that there are certain children who feel differently, think differently, who are unique, but then they would start to pretend to be something else or someone else, just try to copy someone just to fall into the category, and which would indirectly probably mean either killing their unique abilities, their talents, or sometimes it could be otherwise also, or it could help them in becoming better. Uh, how does it affect the mental health of these children when they try to mask their identities and try and become someone else when probably when we try to put them into the same group?
Excellent question again. So, the thing is that, so both parties need to be, not say made aware of it, but through experience, both parties come to know. And children can be very compassionate also, and they can be very mean and cruel also to each other. I'm using those words particularly because they don't really understand the meaning of any of it, but they are also reacting on certain or responding on certain aspects, right? So now what happens is, like I said, and it has been proven, these kids are smart. the neurodivergent kids.
Mm.
Okay, so what they do, that they feel that it's better to put up a facade, it is better to pretend, it is better to kind of fit in at least for this class so that the teacher doesn't pick on me, example. Okay, and I will get by, but that is actually creating a lot of turmoil within. One, they are not able to address what they're going through themselves as compared to the rest of the class. Two, when they are forced to do this, now I'm talking about a very young age, then you become teenagers, and then again you're interpreting the world in a very different way. Your peers are interpreting it in a very different way. You're getting stared at, picked on, whatever. And as an adult, it can, and we have cases, okay, in point where, I mean, the ones that come to our center also, so their anxiety levels are very high. They can be very stressed out with the tiniest thing. And later on, I don't want to use the word completely as depression, but they do get into a lot of
Yeah.
negativity, right? Now,
Yeah.
the way we say the work that we do, what we figured out over a period of time is that it's also very closely connected to the idea of self
Mm.
esteem and self, right? And we've also got cases wherein, if this child, I mean, was like barely, I would say 25% on the spectrum, but was made to sit in an exclusive special school with children who were of different degrees of problems, this kid preferred to be called dumb, preferred to be called, because I have kids coming to me telling me they can read very well for their age, example. And if I just give them one paragraph, suppose that, come on, darling, you've read this much, now how about one para today? And these are 15, 16, 27-year-old kids. Their first reaction is, I can't read. I was like, but you just read in front of me. What do you mean you can't read? So, no, I'm not capable of reading that much. Where's that coming from? Right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes the rub off effect is more negative when they are in a group that is of higher example, let's say deficiencies, so to speak, if we say it in terms of just using a word, not disorder,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And but sometimes I've also seen the reverse case where there are kids who are in what we call a mainstream school, but they have these children, couple of them, you can count them on your fingers, and how these neurotypical children are able to address their issues better. The same age,
Mm.
the same age. We have one case where if the child is not listening, his classmate just walks up to him and talks very softly to him. And that's something we picked up from her. Because once in a while, even we were thinking, oh my God, how are we supposed to deal with this child now? And she just walks up. She happened to be there at the center at that time. She walks up and says, why don't you just listen to me first, in this tone? And my eyes almost popped out because the kid listened. Okay. And kind of calmed down. So it will only work if there are scenarios of overlap. When there
Mm.
mental stress, or what we are calling mental health, is today affecting neurotypicals more. Okay, so you can
Mm.
imagine neurodivergent are just ignored because it, their challenges, their problems are not even addressed, because they
Mm.
they are just looked upon as, what can we do for you? This is all that can happen for you, so you're already struck off. Yeah, so then they
Mm.
they grapple they grapple with mental health a lot, a
Yeah.
lot.
Okay. I think we partially discussed what I'm going to ask you next is that we partially talked about this, but then what are, if you can just enumerate the factors that help in building a sustainable environment, maybe in the field of education, like in a classroom setup, or maybe at a workplace. What makes these or people who are different, neurodivergent, thrive?
So see, one is able to, so let's take the workplace first, and that to some extent is changing faster, I feel, as compared to uh, children. You know, so say when the knowledge comes in, the trickle down effect by the time it reaches the kids may take a little more time. But in some workplaces this is changing, but that too we can count on our fingers. So for instance, at the workplace, the uh, maximum that some offices can provide or are providing, or spaces are providing, are flexi time, you know, because sometimes some
Hmm.
neurodivergent people get very stressed by routines also. Like some thrive on routines and some are stressed because of routines, unless the routines don't have a bandwidth with theirs. Okay, so a flexibility of time is one. Lighting, changing the lighting, you know, because most commercial spaces have very bright lights, and that can kind of play on many minds. Lighting is one, and then providing them at the workplace a certain amount of uh, solitude or alone time. Like they're not necessarily sitting with 10 other people, but the 10 other people also are aware, not in terms of that there's something wrong with this person, but you know, we're just kind of creating that space. That's one. uh, for children of in schools, it's very necessary to have peer to peer understanding, you know, and
Hmm.
very challenging, it's very difficult, but trust me, uh, they do cooperate, they do understand. Children, if you tell them that, you know, maybe this kid will just take a little more time, how about, you know, like what we actually call the buddy system. So you know, you make,
Hmm.
you put two people together or more than two and in a group. That's one. So peer to peer works very well. Two is, like I had mentioned in the beginning, ensuring that the teachers are sensitized, are trained uh, in a manner that they understand that, okay, fine, not all day. So, you know, it's kind of having a deal. For instance, if a
Hmm.
child doesn't like to go, like right now it's raining in Baroda, okay? I have so many kids who are not finicky. I know so many kids who are not finicky about the rain, but they don't like to get their feet messed up. Okay, I mean, in the, like, we used to jump in and out of puddles and we didn't care about hygiene, this, that, and the other. And perhaps we didn't understand also, we were just doing it for fun. Now there are some, then I started noting down, okay, that why is it happening every time. And I realized that they're not averse to the rains or they're not averse to mud per se. It's just that any kind of a substance that is not to their liking, touching their feet, kind of. And these are neurotypical kids. They are not neurodivergent kids. Okay, they're absolutely neurotypical. So what happens is understanding that. So not forcing them in school. Like, don't force them until and unless you understand where they stand as per the learning profile. So like, again, going back to, if there's a kid like me and I wanted to escape uh, a particular class, the teacher may agree or not agree. And in our time we were even punished. Now there's nothing like punishment. And so for me, a punishment was always fun time, because I was thrown out of the class and I got a chance to observe the world at my own time. But now it's very different. We have to be very careful, like I
Hmm.
said. So if the teacher is able to understand and says a simple thing like, okay, sweetheart, I understand you don't want to go for your physical education period right now. How about you sit next to me in the library? Example. So not only is she giving that support of being there as a human being, but also that she can figure out that maybe does the library interest the child or not, or take the child somewhere else.
Hmm.
So providing that physical space within a school is, again, now many people call this all rosy pictures, not possible. It is possible. There are schools that are doing it in many ways. So this was the second thing, creating that. So after peer, then creating certain environments, little bubbles in the school, you know, where 75% of the time they're probably with their class, 25% you can give them time out. So that's the third thing. And the last I would say is that, not last, actually it should be the, is take the parents on board, you know, share it with the parents, everything, every observation, everything. There may be tough moments where the parents would say that no, the child is not like this at school, sorry, at home. That gives you another observation. Okay, the child is different at home and is, you know, withdrawing over here. So let me check, is there something, a problem in the social scenario? So it's a very fluid, very amoebic kind of a process. But there has to be a core team in every school, not limiting it to just the counselor, okay, or the psychologist. It's the numbers are unmanageable. It's just one person doing it. So it's the core team has to be sensitized to these, you know, scenarios, and keep checking out on it from time to time.
Mm, right. Two things. What I would want to address from your answer is, one thing is that, as you were saying, that if the child does not want to go for his or her physical training, then maybe she can be dealt in a different way or given a different option. Um, I personally feel that if we keep on giving options to children, or, okay, or if we start to keep on entertaining their choices, if, oh, you don't want to do this, it's okay, don't do it. You don't want, does that, in a way, making the child a little bit more fussier, or, we are just trying to give the child what he or she wants, and where is the training coming from?
Fantastic.
How are
No,
we training that child?
no. Listen, the choice has to be given in a pros and con manner. Okay, in a manner of
Okay.
speaking, it's not like, for instance, the point you brought up is very good. That, um, suppose it's something to eat. Okay, it's something to do with eating or an eating habit. So as I see young mothers nowadays, what they're doing is that, oh, you don't want to eat this, I'll make you that, I'll make you that, I'll order that, I'll order this. So we are, it's a choice of plenty, and we are spoiled because of that plenty. Okay, here it's not that. I'm saying if the teacher has observed that there is something, so we must give credence, we must give some importance to, see, the child could be a fibber like me. I was very good at fibbing and getting away with it with my teachers. Or, my ankle is, I twisted my ankle this morning. And I was in a Christian school, a missionary school. So back of her mind, the kid knows that on the way home, I'll confess. You understand? I'll confess. I'll go to the grotto. I'll stand in front of Mother Mary and I will say, I'm sorry. Okay. Now these are very small things. So a kid understands all that manipulation and knows that this teacher. I'm talking about a case where there is a genuine issue, and sometimes because we don't recognize that genuine kid, I'm not saying give choices to everyone. Like I said, 75% regimentation, 25% choice. And the choice has to come with a rider. It has to always come with a rider. It's a pro and a con. That, okay, fine, today I am going to give this to you as an option. Let's see where it takes us. This is not the norm. Trust me, kids understand when you talk to them like that. Okay, so it's not
Right.
about,
Okay.
yeah, it's not about spoiling them. It's about being in the moment and not, say, I would say, getting blinded by the fact that everybody will react in the same manner to a particular stimulus. You know, so doing physical exercise is equally important. I'm not saying that, but maybe we need to hear the child's side of the story also once in a while. Okay, so
Correct.
75%. If I
Right.
classify it in terms of that, that's how it would be. Listen, I mean, routine is
Mm.
routine, you have to abide by it, all of that. But today I'm making this leeway for you because you said you are uncomfortable. Okay, and not only mental health, Nazneen, there is a lot that is happening in, uh, which we don't understand, or we choose not to understand. So if I feel that we should give importance to what a kid says today, you know, not today, I mean always, because sometimes it could be that they're escaping a senior who's bullying them or who's trying to get physical with them, and they have no words to say it. So we have to give them a forum, we have to give them a platform where they can talk. And I mean, it will numb you to the core to listen to things that are happening in India in schools today, you know.
Right.
So they, in that context, so this is very contextual. We can't take it as a uh, thumb rule. No, absolutely not.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And also, one thing, that what is happening at in the background, like what is happening with the children at homes and how they are dealt with at homes, also plays a role in how they behave in the schools. Today, maybe they are very happy because something they've had like a celebration at home or something. Maybe the parents have had an argument and the child is not feeling good about it. So all of that also matters. Just adding to what we've been discussing, right?
100%. 100%. Here I would just like to share something very, very small. Nazneen, I got the opportunity to be a resource person last year, and I think a year before that too, with an organization here, an NGO which is working with Nagar Prathmik Shalas, as in the government schools here.
Yeah,
Okay, where the kids come from extremely economically backward and other kind of environments. Okay,
yeah,
and of course they are working in the field of mental health, how to sensitize children and strengthen them as individuals, and the family will fall in place later. So we're doing the reverse, that catch them young, and then it'll probably have a ripple effect on the families also. Now you'll not believe that some of these kids come from homes that are very violent, homes where there is a lot of brutality in many different ways, and they've seen it all. Okay, but here we are just opening a window for them, right? And for instance, my topic that I chose, I said the rest of them are doing a whole lot on mental health. I'd like to talk to them about happiness, that how this is an inherent quality. It's not something dependent on the outside. Okay, it's not dependent on a phone or a pencil that I get or whatever. And I
yeah,
tried to explain it to them in that manner, and this was grade 5 to grade 9. Okay,
yeah,
and I have a tough name. Okay, I mean, no, no, it's very difficult for children to remember my name. But the and I went to them for just a couple of sessions every time, and each of them remembered, because there were tools, because there were things that we did together, and there were tools that I gave them, which made them understand that yes, this is just a situation, this is just a moment in our lives, and if we work on ourselves, we'll be able to step out. Okay, now
yeah,
now imagine this being done relentlessly, consciously, across the masses. Okay, and not just economically backward, everyone. Okay, you
hmm,
imagine where our mental health will go, how will it, how beautifully it will be boosted. you know.
yeah,
So that is not happening, unfortunately. We're getting caught in this quagmire of daily struggles, whatever, and not being able
yeah.
to come above it.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, is there any content that you would suggest people to watch, to read, so that they can understand neurodivergence in a better way?
Yes, there are actually, so there's a lot available on the net, but again, this comes with a rider. Like I said, information can sometimes be harmful, also damaging also,
Hmm.
because I'll tell
Yeah,
you why. What we tend to do, it's okay if you can handle it. Okay, but it's best to confer, or kind of, if you're reading it just for your own sake, it's perfectly fine. There's a lot available on the net. But what happens is we tend to become hypochondriacs. We tend to think that, oh my God, this is exactly what's happening to me, or this,
yeah,
and we are
yeah,
not in the arena of diagnosis. I want to make this very clear. as normal human beings, we must not diagnose. Whether, because there are relevant tests, there are forums, there are platforms whereby experts need to do that. Okay. And that also has to be a collective approach, not just one person. Okay. So reading is fine as long as you're doing it for self growth, but do not uh, attempt that, I feel. It can be very damaging. And this again I have learned through mentors and through people in the field who I've worked with very closely. And technically they would say that, for instance, that don't even take on a case which you feel you can't handle. Okay. So meaning,
Hmm.
a neurodivergent case, don't take on that case if you cannot handle it. Okay. Because you'll do more damage than you'll do good. So
Okay.
it's always a collective effort. So for reading there is a lot available, many books are available, and content on the net pretty much is good, but I would say use that only for self growth, not for
Hmm.
identifying or diagnosing a particular
Okay.
condition, because that is incorrect. That is incorrect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about diagnosis. So, what at what stage does a person, a parent or a teacher would realize that okay, that a kind of a diagnosis for neurodivergence is required in a particular child? At what time uh, do the support group realizes this? And
So
how if there is a late diagnosis, what can be the implications?
fantastic again. So the thing is that in all the cases, particularly in autism, um, early diagnosis is key. Early diagnosis is key. Okay. In the sense, preferably below 7 years. Okay. Even seven sometimes is late.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens is, depending upon the degree of the problem with a particular individual, it manifests either immediately by 9 months, or sometimes even the pediatrician will be able to give you few signs. Okay. So the pediatrician will tell you a couple of things like that you need to watch out for in terms of milestones. And then secondly, if you notice something that it's uh, the child is not reaching those milestones on time, or maybe at least close to that time, then you go back for a referral. That, look, this is thing. And so early intervention in all cases is mandatory. But like I said, in India,
Hmm.
we are really far back on that, because even as parents we don't accept and we ignore. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two,
Hmm.
like you said, late diagnosis, the intervention process and the change takes longer, because the child or the
Yeah.
person has learned to live with that problem, and has 90% of the time has been pushed. I think that's a little one, has been pushed.
Yeah. She's.
So early intervention is the key, and seeking help uh, is the best thing to do. But again, not become paranoid about it. Like I said, sometimes young parents are also becoming too sensitive to it, and kind of, it's like putting the kid through the that, what is that, scanner. No, no, you
Yeah.
don't need to do that. Right. So refer to the right people, keep your eyes open, and try and spend as much time with the child. That is what I would say, because sometimes parents are unable to do that. And so there are small things that you will discover. Speech impairment may be there, eye contact is not there, or the child is not listening to you when you're calling. Normal kids react, the neurotypical react on all those planes, but neurodivergent may not, or it may be delayed.
Mhm. Uh, I just had one question, just for the sake of clarity. Do people with physical disability fall under neurodivergence? No.
No. So the word
Okay.
neuro, yeah. So yes, neurodivergence is,
Hmm.
so physical disability is a different ball game, but sometimes,
Yeah.
like it can be a part of the issue. Okay. So yeah.
Okay.
So like you have again a range of cerebral palsy, where some kids are able to, who are bright in the head but physically impaired. So there are different combinations. But yeah,
All
so
right.
so there's a lot of, It's a big
Yeah.
kind of you know
Yeah.
rainbow.
So, ma'am, I think we've discussed whatever was planned to discuss.
Yes.
Is there anything that is left from my side, or you would want to add to this conversation?
The same thing, which in different words, that let's be a little more forgiving, let's be a little more accepting, especially if we are, because we're all humans at the end of the day. And that should be, in whichever way. You may not be an educator, you may not be a parent, you may not be in the field, but if there is something that you can do to spread this awareness also, I think that takes the cake today. That is
Yeah.
very important. And kind of be there, like solidarity, right? That this is not just one kind of people in the world. There's all kind of people in
Hmm.
the world. So if we take color, I mean, I'm just saying color. How much of stuff has happened just on color. So it's high time. We're almost at the end of the 21st century. We need to figure things out. Is all
Yes.
right. Is all
Yeah.
right.
Right. Right, ma'am.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time, ma'am.
Thank
I will definitely have some afterthoughts while I'll be on the editing part of this conversation, and I do have certain thoughts right now, but I would want to structure them, and maybe I will write it again, write back to you, and we can further discuss it over emails and just for the sake of clarity. And
you.
if needed, we can again get in touch online, maybe record another session and put it up. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.